Hello guys, and welcome back to Car Obsession. Today you join me in the brand new Ford Fiesta Trend. The Trend replaces the old Zetec, and it is all about offering an affordable Fiesta package. Now, don't think that you won't have any creature comforts in here at all, because I've got air conditioning. There is an 8-inch touchscreen with the Ford Sync 3 system. It has DAB radio, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity. You can have navigation at an extra cost, which this car has, but to be honest, if you have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you may not need to fork out the extra for navigation. Now, I do have a turnkey ignition, of course, so this is rather old school. Under the bonnet, I have a 1.1 litre petrol engine, which offers just 85 horsepower. So will this engine be enough for this car? Well, I'm going to go for a quick drive to find out. I've only got this car for about 20 minutes, so this is not a full comprehensive review. This is more of my first thoughts. Attached to the 1.1 litre engine, I have a 5-speed manual gearbox, so let's see how it performs. In regard to the other performance stats for the engine, as well as the 85 horsepower, it has 108 Newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound feet, I will drop a subtitle below. I'm sure many of you watching aren't too concerned about the performance figures, because this is, an affordable Fiesta, but this will hit 62 miles per hour in 13.8 seconds, and the top speed is 105 miles per hour. Whilst I'm here, let me quickly talk you through the economy. So on a combined run, you're looking at 48.7 mpg, and the emissions are 114 grams per kilometre. Apologies for referring to the spec sheet. I've only got this car for so long, so I want to make sure that the information I'm giving you is correct. As well as the features I've already spoken about, you have the lane keeping alert, and I've got the 16-inch alloy wheels. Right, so away we go. So yes, like I said, this won't be a full comprehensive review. These are really my first thoughts on the car. So in regard to starting price, just get the wipers on. There we go. In regard to the starting price, if you go for the 3-door, that starts from £15,995. However, I have the 5-door, so if you go for the 5-door, you need to add £500 onto that. So this car would normally start from £16,495. However, this car does have a few options. Therefore, this particular one I'm sat in is actually around £18,500. So this particular car I'm sat in doesn't really represent the best value, but it just gives you a chance to see what you can have on the car. So I've got the comfort pack, so I've got heated seats and a heated steering wheel. I've got the city pack, which gives me the foldable wing mirrors. I get puddle lights, and I also get rear parking sensors. I've also got this very nice desert island blue paintwork, which I really like. It's a really nice shade of blue. So obviously this particular Fiesta won't be the most affordable, given the fact it's got options on it. I've got to mention the insurance group, that is 5E. So this car should be very reasonable to insure. So if you're perhaps a first-time driver, or you just want to keep the costs down on your insurance, then this will be a good car to pick. So first impressions, it's as you would expect from a Fiesta. It's pleasurable to drive, although let's face it, I've only driven it a few yards. Now it'd be interesting to see how this 1.1 litre petrol engine does, because I must admit, I don't think I've ever tried this engine. So this is a new experience for me. Some of you may scoff and think, oh, 85 horsepower, that's not really that much. But if this is going to be a runabout from A to B, then you don't really need that much power, do you? So that's why it seems almost pointless talking about the performance figures, because let's face it, the typical buyer of this car won't give a monkeys about how fast it will get to 62 miles per hour or what the top speed is. When I first stepped into the car, I must admit these seats are really nice and spongy. They're not the most supportive, but given the price of the car, you can't really moan too much. But they feel really nice and spongy and foamy. So I reckon on a long distance journey, this might not be too bad to drive. The gear changes feel quite satisfying. They're not the slickest, of course, but Ford normally do a decent manual gearbox, and this one, on the whole, is pleasant to use. It's light, but it's still got an air of solidity about it. So far, the 1.1 litre engine, it feels just fine. It feels pretty adequate. I don't feel like a burden on these faster roads. I don't have a queue of traffic behind me, so that's always good. Let's turn the heater off. I know, guys, the heater noise is annoying, but it is a necessity, I'm afraid. The weather is not very pleasant today. Try and exploit the power here. That doesn't feel too bad, to be fair. The engine does need to be worked a little bit hard, but it doesn't feel like a slouch. A bit more body lean in the corners than I was expecting, but A, this isn't built primarily for handling, although the Fiesta is a good handling car, and B, I've spent most of my day driving performance cars, so to really critique this car for being a little bit roly-poly in the corners is quite unfair. But one thing I haven't spoken about so far is the ride. The ride, yeah, it is very agreeable. It's supple. As I said earlier, these seats are quite nice and foamy. Very nice and foamy, actually. So I would like to say you could drive this for a longer distance and not really have any complaints in regard to your back, but I do think these seats may just lack that extra bit of support for your lumbar that you may need on a longer journey. But I'd say compared to, okay, let's say an MG3, for example, I know that is a cheaper car, but I think this would be easier to drive a longer distance as opposed to an MG3, for example, especially as the MG3 has got quite firm suspension. Now, some of you may think I'm mad, but this could really be all the Fiesta you need. Let's face it, it's got your kind of, bare minimal that you want in regard to creature comforts. You've got your air conditioning, of course you've got your quick clear windscreen. That is really, really flooded, that side of the road. That is essentially a massive puddle. It's more of a lake. But yes, going back to the suitability of the Fiesta Trend, you still have a nice touchscreen to use with your mod cons. You can have navigation at an extra cost if you want to, like I mentioned earlier. And to be honest, there's not really that much more that I personally would want in here. Yes, okay, I've got the comfort pack and I've got the city pack, which are nice additions, but realistically I could live without them. Even though this is the Trend, it's not exactly got a lot of bells and whistles, because it is a Fiesta, it can still put a smile on your face through the corners. Now, of course, this isn't an ST, but it's still pretty capable in the corners. I know earlier I kind of moaned a little bit about the body roll, but like I said, I've driven performance cars all day. I've kind of brought things back down to earth by driving a sensible, everyday family car. Refinement so far has seemed pretty fine. I've not needed to feel the need to raise my voice at you. And this is a very easy car to drive. I found it very easy to get a comfortable seating position. All the controls are well weighted. They're light, but they're not too light. So in case you're wondering what kind of MPG I'm getting right now, bearing in mind I haven't particularly driven in an economical fashion, and this has been a short drive, I'm doing 46.1 MPG. So not too bad. This may have a bit of an underpowered engine. It may not be the most plush Fiesta you can buy, but I actually still quite like this. If I were to buy this car, I don't think I'd be disappointed. As I've said, it's not the cheapest Super Mini money can buy. However, as an entry-level Ford Fiesta, I really don't think there's much you can complain about. And I would urge you to go for this Desert Island Blue, because I think it looks fantastic. It's a really nice shade of blue. I actually quite like this car. I thought it was going to feel a little bit cheap and nasty. I thought it was going to be cheap and not so cheerful, but this proves you can have cheap and cheerful. This is a great example. If I was a new driver that had just been given a car by their parents and it was this, I would be very happy actually. My very first car was an ex-reg Fiat Punto, which was broken most of the time. But to be fair, it only cost me 900 quid. Whereas if I got this for my first car, I'd be delighted. Right, this drive is pretty much over. I have to say, I've enjoyed my time with the Ford Fiesta Trend. I think it offers a good amount of bang for your buck. I think if you're looking for a cheap runabout, or if this is to be your first car, I think this is a good choice. And even the 1.1 litre engine isn't that bad either. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't got a massive amount of pulling power, but you wouldn't expect it to. Right, on that note, it is time for me to end. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, subscribe, and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.